Some of you may know Shaun Jenkins as a fitness trainer, but he's taking on a new project beyond his fitness studio that's empowering the community. In the wake of recent deaths of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, Jenkins wanted to take action and help change the narrative of black men here in the United States. Shaun Jenkins and co-founder Sharon Mussalli are checking in with us from New York City about their new initiative. So, for those who don't know or those who may not have heard of it before, what is the Legacy Project and the King's Run?
All right, so let's start out first with the King's Run. King's Run is a community-based service. We are focusing on changing the narrative on black and brown men in this country, making sure we always emphasizing positive imagery, always emphasizing upliftment, and make sure we're reaffirming that we as men of color are being identified in a positive image. And then fast forwarding, Sharon and I created the Legacy Project as a stimulus to help the younger generation have a voice in this new narrative. We use poignant references like, I pray for the day that my dad is not your prey. We had children use reference points that the future is equality. We had children from United States as far as to India, to Ireland, Soviet Union, Ukraine. We've had a global levels of entries on this project.
Amazing. And Sharon, is there anything you want to add, by the way, before we go on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that in all of our initiatives, we kind of sprang to action rather quickly. So it started with the King's Run, which was people running over 5 days from when we decided to start this initiative. All of a sudden, we had 100 people running around the world. And then we moved into the Legacy Project. And to Shaun's point, it had global reach. You know, I'm somebody who comes from the media and entertainment world and started to look at just its impact, even like sort of quantitatively and numerically. And you started to just see impressions everywhere. I had people calling me and saying, the hashtag is all over Instagram, and I don't know how to find you guys. I see it every time I refresh my feed. And so not only did it really have impact in communities and societies, we really realized the power of people using their voice in social media and digital, particularly in the era of COVID, when we can only sort of find ways to connect digitally and virtually, and how that really impacted how people were speaking about the topic and made change the way this era of movement from young people and really capitalizing on that. So it's really astonishing for us as founders and exciting for us as we move forward to our next initiative.
It is, and it's just, even as somebody who's just watching things unfold, it's been fascinating to see very homogenous countries on the other side of the world marching in solidarity with the African American community here in the United States. It's beautiful, to be honest. So going back to changing the narrative, because this is what it's all about. If we're talking about making a change in this country, right, and just making ourselves better, why does it start with changing the narrative of people of color here in the U.S.?
So in particular, let's even break it down a little bit more. We're going to change the narrative by starting with children. So if you use a reference point of the Legacy Project, we believe that racism is taught at home. So if at home love and empathy is taught, then you're starting to change the narrative from the ground root, and you're building from that forward. I'm a firm believer, you plant the seed, you water the seed, and the seed will grow. So the seed being love and the seed being empathy, the Legacy Project is that initiative. Fast forwarding into the narrative of changing into positive imagery is so often that you look at any level of media, and I hate to use this because we're using media now, but it's so easy to highlight the negative things. It's so easy to highlight the negative aspects of the protest march. It's so easy to highlight anything that's negative. It's very hard to highlight the positive attributes. So we want to make sure that we're creating a community, and we want to be a source of just positive information so that people can chime in and check in and always have a level of constant information that is of supreme value and upliftment.
So you think there's a big imbalance with the way that African Americans, let's speak about African Americans particularly, are portrayed in media, be it TV, movies. You think it's not balanced and it's usually focusing on the negative? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, you just look at you go from the sound bites that reporters grab from the citizens that are on the street. It tends to be from the citizens who aren't as educated, who happen to have a degree of, they need to work on some social etiquette. So it's easier to pinpoint them and get that soundbite from them. or you highlight the most visceral response of a peaceful protest and highlight only the black youth, but the media doesn't highlight the white participants. So it's so easier, and we see it constantly being done, and even from our president, where his reference to the protesters went from thugs in his reference point, and if someone was white, he would always say good people. So it always works in that manner, where we are highlighted as thugs or criminals and never given the benefit of the doubt.
What impact have these projects had on the community? Have you seen anything tangible on the local or even maybe the national scale yet?
I mean, absolutely, just on local scale. Because I'm so fitness and wellness based, my community at one point was very quiet. Sharon and I, we became active probably a month before the fitness and wellness space was actually engaged. And because of that, we started to see a groundswelling where we basically saying we're going to use this platform to communicate, and we started to see people actually take notice and understand it, their input, and that them as being allies is super important. And then the fact that we can reach out to people who are internationally and share this message just automatically shows that we have a global reach, and we're impacting people who are in Ireland, who don't necessarily have the same racial issues that we're going to have. You know, they have different levels of racial issues, but, you know, just to be able to have someone from Ireland have such a deep connection to what we're doing on the state side, so that we are having a global reach. And I'd like Sharon to reach out and explain some more of that.
Yeah, I think, and also a really crucial part of what differentiates us potentially to an extent, it's the idea that I represent the ally narrative, right? I'm not an African-American male, if you can't tell. And it's that everybody needs to participate and be part of the solution. So you're starting to get people, regardless of their background, regardless of their gender, country of origin, however they may identify themselves, they're now reaching out and saying, how do I become part of the solution? And I think often when they see a pairing of co-founders that can represent both ally and the effective, it's really an open arm, welcoming space for them. And so when I speak to women, as an example, I say things like, historically, the female narrative has been, I feel unsafe when I go out running, that there are predatory people out there that are going to make it very difficult for me and could potentially threaten my safety and well-being on something as routine as a run. This has been a feminist female narrative and something I've lived and experienced for decades. And then when you look at the Ahmaud Arbery murder, you say that's the exact same thing. So if you as a female, for example, can't see yourselves now finally in the shoes of the effect as it relates to the African-American community in the U.S., when can you? Because now it's the exact same story. And I think that's truly sort of what's different about things now, is you see people coming from all sides together, and we truly believe that a solution would not occur and will not occur without everybody being part of finding what the right outcome is for this country and for our community.
I hear that. Thank you. Sharon, Shaun, appreciate your time.
Yeah.